Imagine being the most feared divorce attorney in the country, someone who has ended thousands of marriages, dismantled fortunes, and broken the strongest of vows in a courtroom without flinching. Then one ordinary night, you discover that everything you built your perfect life on is a lie. Your husband is cheating on you. And the other woman, your own secretary, someone you trusted for 10 years, that's exactly where Victoria Chae finds herself. Not as the lawyer, not as the one holding the evidence, but as the client. The question is, will the woman who has won every case finally fight for herself? This is the story of top divorce attorney Victoria Chae and the rookie intern who changes everything. Victoria Chae is the kind of woman people write articles about. Korea's most successful woman of the decade, flawless in court, undefeated. Every divorce case she's touched has crumbled in her favor. On the outside, she has it all: a thriving law career, a devoted doctor husband named Daniel Kong, and a bright teenage daughter, Lily. But there's a rule in Korean dramas, and honestly, in life, that the more perfect a couple appears, the worse their ending will be. Enter Mia Han. Fresh out of law school, top of her class, and absolutely furious about where she's been placed. She wanted family law, corporate, anything, but not the divorce department, and not under Victoria Chae. See, Mia has history with Victoria. Back in university, she sat in on one of Victoria's lectures. The professor asked the class, "How would you advise a client who cheated, but now complains about their new partner after divorce?" Mia gave a textbook answer. Thoughtful, empathetic, Victoria tore it apart in front of the whole room, calling it uninspired, less interesting than something an AI would produce. That comment burrowed deep into Mia and never left. So when Mia found herself assigned to Victoria's team on her very first day at Daejeong law firm ranked second nationally, paying 3 times the market salary, she was convinced it was a mistake. She tracked down the job posting. The listing wasn't for divorce law. Someone had changed her placement. Her boss, Marcus Jung, practically begged her to stay. The department had already lost 3 new recruits this month. Losing a top-ranked hire would be a nightmare to explain upstairs. When Mia finally met with Victoria one-on-one, she did what most people would never dare. She asked directly whether her placement was deliberate payback from their university encounter. Victoria didn't flinch. She made Mia a deal. Win 10 consecutive cases, and she'd personally arrange a transfer. 10 consecutive wins. As an intern, nearly impossible. Before Mia could even process how hopeless that was, Victoria pivoted completely, dropping the subject, and told her to buy a car and a watch. "Time is the most valuable thing a lawyer has," she said. "Don't waste it on buses, and never check your phone in front of a client." Then she stood up and left. Mia had been hired. She just wasn't happy about it. Her first day was a wall of cold water. 60 cases dropped on her desk, a court appearance scheduled for the very next morning, and a client arriving in 10 minutes for a solo consultation. The client was a middle-aged man who arrived with his teenage son. Victoria, watching from a distance, instantly assessed the situation. A man having an affair, using his son as an unwilling character witness. Mia disagreed. She believed in giving people the benefit of the doubt. The man claimed his wife was paranoid that she made their son spy on his phone, track his location, and follow his every move. He didn't want a divorce. He just wanted the lawsuit dismissed. He was convincing, earnest, emotional. Mia believed him on the spot and promised to fight for him. Victoria watched this with something between amusement and exhaustion. In court, Mia argued passionately. She had evidence of the wife's erratic behavior, documentation of her paranoia. Then the opposing lawyer produced the man's private messages. Explicit, undeniable. Mia was frozen. She had insisted on trusting her client over her mentor's explicit warning. But as a professional, she couldn't fall apart. She kept arguing that the evidence might be fabricated, that the wife's paranoia was still real. The opposing family erupted. The case was postponed. Outside the courtroom, the victim's family cornered Mia and accused her of being the man's mistress. She retreated to a bathroom, shaken, professionally embarrassed, privately furious at herself. Victoria followed her. Instead of compassion, she offered a strategy. Forget your feelings. Make him admit the affair and accept a settlement divorce. You'll lose this case, but you'll move on. When the man showed up at the office, shameless, still denying everything, Mia exploded. She threw the chat records at him and demanded the truth. He still wouldn't admit it. His excuse for the messages, enjoy, was just how he said, "Thank you for a meal." Mia almost laughed. She shared the man's defense with Victoria. Victoria literally laughed until she almost passed out, then jokingly told Mia to use it in court. But Mia said she couldn't defend a liar in good conscience. Victoria pushed back. The judgment belongs to the judge, not the lawyer. Your job is to do your job. For rookie lawyer Mia Han, that feeling was all too familiar. Her very first case was a messy divorce. The husband claimed his wife was delusional, constantly accusing him of cheating. The wife insisted he was having an affair. In court, the husband's lawyer came up with this absurd defense. Something about how a man should be able to enjoy his life. The whole courtroom burst out laughing. Even the judge had to bite his lip to keep from smiling. It was ridiculous. But in that moment, Mia made a move that shocked everyone. The day before, the wife and her family had cornered Mia in the office bathroom, screaming at her, accusing her of being the husband's mistress. What they didn't know was that Mia had recorded the entire tirade in the courtroom. She played the audio. The wife's voice, filled with frantic, unfounded accusations, echoed through the silent room. The opposing counsel leaped to his feet, objecting. It wasn't a legal recording, he argued. Mia wasn't part of that conversation. But Mia was ready. Because they had called her out by name before she even entered the restroom, she was legally a party to the conversation. To seal the deal, she presented a signed statement from the wife's own son, confirming his mother's history of paranoid behavior. The judge dismissed the case. Mia had won. But walking out of the courthouse, seeing the wife sobbing uncontrollably in the parking lot, Mia felt no victory, only a cold, heavy guilt. Later, she called her client to confirm the win. A woman answered the phone, but it wasn't the wife. Mia's blood ran cold. The wife had been right all along. Her client wasn't just enjoying his life. He was living a double one. That night, Mia went to the office to write her resignation letter. She felt like a fraud. A colleague, seeing her distress, suggested she visit the relaxation room on the 16th floor, a quiet place to clear your head. On a whim, Mia went. As she approached the door, she heard faint sounds from inside. She hesitated, then pushed the door open. What she saw made her stomach drop. Two people, locked in an intimate embrace, completely oblivious to her presence. The man turned, and Mia's heart stopped. It was Daniel Kong, the husband of her mentor, the brilliant and respected lawyer Victoria Chae. Mia backed away silently, her heart pounding against her ribs. Just as she slipped back into the hallway, she heard footsteps approaching. It was Victoria, heading straight for that room. Mia had 2 seconds to make a choice. Thinking fast, she called out, "Victoria! Fancy seeing you here." Her voice, loud and overly casual, was a clear warning to the people inside. Victoria stopped, surprised. The two of them chatted for a moment, then walked away together, making small talk about cases as if nothing had happened. Inside, Mia was screaming. 4 days, she barely slept. Should she tell Victoria? Was it her place? What if it made things worse? She confided in a trusted colleague who gave her simple, direct advice. If you truly care about her, you have to tell her. Let her decide what to do with her own life before she loses any more time to a lie. But before Mia could gather the courage, Victoria's behavior toward her changed dramatically. Suddenly, Mia was Victoria's shadow. She was pulled into every meeting, every case, from small claims to high-profile corporate battles. Victoria was mentoring her, sharing strategies, teaching her the instincts that had taken decades to hone. Victoria's longtime assistant watched from the sidelines, her jealousy a poison cloud in the office air. Then came the inheritance case. A $6 billion estate torn apart by a single handprint on a car window. Two families, once inseparable, now bitter enemies. Claire and Grace had been best friends their whole lives. Their husbands were close. Their kids grew up together. They went camping every weekend, a picture of perfect friendship. One trip, the heater in Grace's car broke. Her husband suggested they all pile into Claire's larger car for the night to stay warm. A practical solution. In the dead of night, Claire woke up. Her husband was gone. So was Grace's wife. Confused, Claire stepped out of the car. She heard muffled noises coming from another vehicle nearby. As she got closer, she saw it, a handprint, pressed firmly against the foggy glass. She peered through the window, and there they were, her husband and Grace's wife. In that single shattering moment, her world collapsed. But a second, even more devastating realization followed. She had seen that handprint before, on her own car window, not just once. She finally understood the scope of the betrayal. But what truly broke her wasn't the affair itself. It was the question that followed. Do I tell Grace? Do I destroy her life along with my own? Or do I carry this unbearable secret alone forever? Listening to this story in the conference room, Mia felt like she'd been punched in the gut. She saw Victoria's face in her mind. She saw Daniel Kong on the 16th floor. She saw the handprint on the window. She said nothing for the rest of the meeting, struggling just to breathe. The defendant in the case was the son of a powerful congressman, and he was playing dirty. His first demand was $2 billion and sole custody of his child. The moment he said it, Grace's husband, the man who had been betrayed, crumbled. He was about to lose his wife and his son in one fell swoop. But Claire's husband, the cheater, remained perfectly calm. He countered with an offer. He would pay for the children to attend the most elite private schools in the country, an education Claire could never afford on her own. Claire hesitated. Mia was furious. She blurted out, "She's selling her children!" Victoria cut her off with an icy glare. She is not giving up custody. She's giving up temporary care. She can still be their mother. Mia shut you back, but the children will feel abandoned. Victoria's voice was sharp. Apologize to our client. Now, Mia apologized, but she didn't understand. It felt heartless. At the next mediation session, something shifted. Grace's husband, who had been fighting tooth and nail, suddenly agreed to the settlement. It turned out Victoria had met with his son privately. The boy had said he wanted to live with his mother. So, with tears streaming down his face, the husband let go. He begged his wife to tell their children he'd gone far away to earn money for them. "Don't ever let them know you chose to leave," he pleaded. "Don't let them blame you." And finally, Mia understood. Victoria's strategy wasn't about taking the children away. It was about securing their future financially while giving the mother the freedom to quietly, patiently win them back when the time was right. Victoria had explained that children always drift back to their mothers. It was a brilliant, long-term play that protected everyone. In that moment, Mia's respect for Victoria soared. To celebrate the win, Victoria took Mia shopping at a luxury department store. It was a place where, years ago, Mia had been humiliated for not being able to afford a handbag, a moment Victoria had witnessed and never forgotten. As they browsed, something caught Mia's eye. It was Victoria's assistant, Sarah, trying on clothes nearby. Mia froze. The skirt Sarah was wearing, it was the exact same distinctive skirt she'd seen on the woman with Daniel Kong on the 16th floor. Her heart pounding, Mia excused herself. She went straight to the building's security office. Using Victoria's high-level access credentials, which she had memorized, she pulled up the surveillance footage from that night. And there it was, clear as day. Daniel Kong entering the relaxation room, and moments later, Sarah Choi, Victoria's own trusted secretary, following him in. The betrayal wasn't just a secret affair. It was right under Victoria's nose every single day. The question was no longer if Mia should tell her. The question was how. Mia, called Victoria, braced herself and told about the affair. Victoria's response was unervingly calm. She already knew. Victoria had found out weeks earlier by accident. A package left on Daniel's desk, intimate photographs of him and Sarah Choi. She pieced everything together at a dinner, how Daniel had openly flirted with Sarah in front of colleagues. In the car one morning, a voice message accidentally played, how Daniel panicked. Said it was from their hospital's department head, someone named Dr. Choi. Later, when Victoria checked the hospital staff list, there was no Dr. Choi. she had known for a long time. But filing for divorce wasn't simple. Victoria Chae was the most famous divorce attorney in the country. A divorce would be a public spectacle. Her reputation would be under a microscope. Her husband had been the primary caretaker of their daughter for 13 years. She knew the custody battle would be brutal. Mia pushed her to act. Victoria refused. Not yet. Then came their wedding anniversary. Victoria had prepared everything carefully. Dinner, candles, the small gestures that say, "I'm still here." Daniel arrived very late. He'd had dinner with Sarah first. Even on their anniversary, she was his priority. When he finally came home, he had no interest in the preparations. He told Victoria directly he wanted a divorce. He'd only stayed this long because she kept delaying the conversation. His reason: Victoria was always working. She neglected the family, neglected their daughter. He just wanted out. Victoria asked quietly if she quit her job and stayed home. Would that be enough? Daniel turned and left without answering. Meanwhile, Mia was pushing her own boundaries. Against Victoria's advice, she took on a battered wife whose case technically had no evidence of abuse. Mia believed her. The woman's drunk husband had beaten her for years, but the woman didn't want a divorce. She was afraid of being seen as a divorced woman. She worried about her daughter's upcoming wedding. She worried her husband couldn't cook for himself. Mia sat across from her and said, simply, "No one cares about that anymore. You shouldn't suffer another 30 years for people who can't understand what you've been through." By the 5th consultation, the woman signed the divorce papers. Mia was elated she had guided someone out of suffering. Victoria poured ice water on it immediately. The woman signed quickly because it was the last session and she was scared of facing her troubles alone. No one decides to divorce just because of a firm's policy. Mia fought back. She asked Victoria directly, if no one should be pushed into divorce, what about you? Victoria looked at her for a long moment, said nothing. Mia's colleagues thought she was being reckless. Have you always been this stubborn? They asked. Mia said she was just following her lawyer's conscience. As predicted by Victoria, the abusive husband threatened suicide when the woman moved out. He called Mia, raged, threatened. The woman packed her bags to go back to him. He's different this time. He begged for forgiveness. The next morning, Mia got a rushed phone call. The man was in emergency surgery. The woman blamed Mia at the hospital bedside. Mia was devastated. Victoria told her calmly, suicide threats after lawsuits are common. Don't feel guilty. Separate your identity from your professional role. Stop expressing personal opinions and start doing your job. But then, in a twist no one saw coming, when the husband woke up and the woman asked to drop the case, Victoria showed up. The same Victoria who had told Mia to drop this client a dozen times. She sat across from the couple and told the woman directly, patterns repeat. If you make a firm decision later, we won't limit the number of consultations. We'll offer couples counseling or addiction counseling. I'm always available. Mia was stunned. She couldn't understand the reversal. Victoria explained later. Once a suicide attempt occurs, the cycle repeats until one day the person reaches a breaking point. You have to keep the door open. Mia no longer understood what marriage even meant. She decided to leave the department. Before going, she told Victoria one last thing. Daniel and Sarah were living together. She left her home address on Victoria's desk. That evening, on impulse, Victoria drove to Mia's building. And there they were, Daniel and Sarah, grocery shopping together, laughing. She watched them through the glass. They looked the way she and Daniel used to look. Comfortable, happy, like family. Something in Victoria snapped. She rushed back to the office, found Mia. She pressed the thick file into Mia's hands. A divorce case. Evidence of infidelity. The plaintiff's name was Victoria Chae. She was filing for her own divorce, and she was entrusting it to Mia. Mia stared at her. Had Victoria been preparing this all along? Victoria admitted she had been collecting evidence for months. As a divorce attorney, gathering proof was easy, but she'd been trying to prevent it, to protect her family, to shield Lily. Then she watched her husband laugh with Sarah under the streetlights, carrying groceries, and it was gone. The will to hold it together. She choked up only once, then composed herself and gave Mia one instruction: "We are going to put on the most perfect divorce show this country has ever seen." The next morning, Sarah Choi arrived at work to find a court summons waiting, accused of misconduct with a married man. Victoria walked in behind her, perfectly composed, and asked Sarah to step into her office. Sarah tried to close the curtains. Victoria stopped her. She wanted the glass walls wide open. Sarah backed into a corner, launched the first blow. "You and Daniel are practically strangers. Sometimes less than strangers." Victoria almost laughed. The excuse was identical to Daniel's, almost word for word. Either they rehearsed it or their guilt had given them the exact same script. Daniel received his summons at the hospital. He called Victoria immediately. How long had she known? His first emotion wasn't shame. It was anger. He accused her of spying. Said he was relieved to finally be leaving. Told her she'd never been a real wife. Then, in the same breath, he accused her of having an affair with Marcus Jung. Victoria's voice didn't crack. She told him to contact her lawyer. Then she put the phone down. That afternoon, Daniel came in person, seeking a private settlement. When Victoria didn't move, he invoked Lily. "You're being selfish. You're not thinking about your daughter." Victoria cut him off. "Never use their daughter as a bargaining chip again. There will be no out-of-court settlement." While Victoria was fighting her own war, she never stopped fighting for her clients. The CO inheritance case, Elena Park versus Chemin Park, moved to court. Elena had stayed legally married for over 20 years while living separately, and now wanted half his company shares. Victoria's argument was surgical. The company went public only after the marriage had effectively ended. The appreciation in value occurred independently. It should not be considered marital property. Elena countered in court that they were still very much in love, a claim several of their mutual friends echoed. Victoria hit back hard. 3 months prior, the company's stock value had multiplied tenfold. She alleged Elena had deliberately prolonged the marriage to ensure that windfall was included as marital assets. The judge was skeptical. Immigration records showed Chairman Park had traveled back to Elena 2 or 3 times a year until recently, and he had continued sending her financial support. These facts needed explaining. Victoria requested a 3-week postponement. Then she reminded Mia, Elena's younger daughter, was almost of legal age. A minor's testimony carried low legal weight. An adult's carried full weight. On the morning of the second session, Mia submitted the younger daughter's statement. It read, "I am Park Yerin, the youngest daughter of the plaintiff and the defendant. My parents love us in their own ways. The year I was born, my father named the company after me. For the past 20 years, he worked to build it. My mother moved to a separate home and personally raised and taught us. 5 years ago, in front of us both, they agreed to continue as parents, but not as a couple." Elena shot to her feet, demanding the judge disregard a minor statement. Victoria pointed out calmly that by the time the statement was written, Yerin had turned 80. Chairman Part 1, the shares stayed with him. Afterward, Victoria told him quietly, as if she were telling herself, "If someone ever uses the children as a threat again, please don't give in." That evening at the victory dinner, Mia mentioned that Sarah was willing to settle. Victoria was unmoved. She didn't want a settlement. She wanted revenge. She wanted Daniel penniless, out of his house, and left with nothing. The next morning changed everything. A juicy gossip story broke overnight. Victoria Chae had been having an affair with Marcus Jung. That was why the marriage collapsed. Both parties were equally at fault. Mia stared at the headline. She'd seen Victoria and Marcus together at the office late at night. She didn't know what to believe. Public opinion shifted overnight. The woman who had won every case was now on trial in the court of public opinion. Daniel had fed the story to what journalists heavily exaggerated. Sarah had arranged the reporter contact, using 10 years of inside knowledge about Marcus's feelings for Victoria as her secret weapon. They were building a counter-narrative. Both spouses were unfaithful. The blame was shared. Marcus Jung, for his part, publicly stated he had never crossed the line of friendship. He had done nothing wrong. He was calm, steady, but the rumors clung. Mia went to Marcus privately. He told her something she didn't expect. He had watched Victoria grow from an unknown junior lawyer into the most powerful attorney in the country. He had seen every struggle, every late night. He had eaten meals with her, argued cases with her, celebrated wins with her. He hadn't realized his own feelings until the day he saw her wedding photo with another man. Mia understood everything, and she reminded him, never let anyone see those feelings. Not now. Not during this case. Meanwhile, the hospital board quietly forced Daniel out of his position. He sat alone in a hallway, staring at nothing. Sarah had not thought through what is like removing Victoria from the picture would actually look like. She had assumed Daniel would be free, available, ready for a new beginning. Instead, he was cold, directionless, and increasingly focused on one thing: fighting Victoria for custody of Lily. Sarah proposed another settlement meeting with Mia, this time with barely veiled threats. As a public figure, Victoria was suffering more media damage than anyone. Sarah, suggested Mia, as a new lawyer, think carefully about whose side to be on. What could a rookie really do against experienced attorneys? Mia reported it to Victoria. She tried to persuade her Victoria's desire for revenge was clouding her judgment. Settling now could minimize the damage. Victoria looked at Mia for a long moment. She didn't yell. She acknowledged that Mia, as a newcomer, had every right to feel cautious. Then she told her to devise a countermeasure. The stance would not change. Mia spent a sleepless night thinking. Then she had it. Daniel and Sarah had started the scandal with innuendo about workplace relationships. Fine. Mia would escalate, not with just rumors or whispers, but with facts. She would file under the charge of bigamy. Daniel had begun a live-in relationship with Sarah while still legally married. That wasn't just an affair. It was a criminalization status that would ignite public curiosity far more than office romance ever could. She contacted the journalist who had published the original smear piece about Victoria. She fed him documented evidence of the actual cohabitation. The story published the same morning as the court date. Public opinion flipped again immediately. At the courthouse entrance, Mia stood before the cameras as Victoria's spokesperson and confirmed the story. Inside, they went to court over custody of Lily. Mia argued for Lily to stay with her mother. Daniel's lawyer fired back. Victoria was an absent parent. Daniel had been Lily's primary caregiver throughout her childhood. He was closer to her. He knew her daily routine, her favorites, her fears. Victoria barely knew her daughter's shoe size. Victoria couldn't deny it. She had been a workaholic since before Lily was born. But then Victoria made her only counter-argument. If Daniel gained custody, Sarah would be raising Lily. The woman who had helped destroy this family, a person known to this case, known to this court, would have daily contact with her daughter. Victoria choked on the sentence. She couldn't finish it. She stood at the podium in silence. The judge ordered a family investigation. The deeper trouble came hours later. Victoria's phone rang. Lily had disappeared after school. She wasn't at the tutoring center where she was supposed to be waiting. Then a text arrived from Sarah. With a photo of Lily, Victoria confronted Sarah at once, demanding Lily step out. Sarah said Lily had reached out herself. She'd been asking to meet for days. When Victoria finally got to Lily and asked why she'd gone, Lily looked her mother dead in the eye and said, "I know Sarah is Dad's mistress." Victoria wanted to deny it. Lily didn't let her. "Who do I live with? Mom, you'll stay home," Victoria said carefully, "and visit your father on weekends." It wasn't an answer, but it was something. The home investigation arrived. Daniel met with the family investigator first, laying out his case methodically. He described Lily crying herself to sleep for 13 years, waiting for her mother to come home. He described cooking every meal, attending every school event. He described Victoria as a name on a door, not a presence in a home. Many of the things he said were essentially true. Victoria knew it, and still, she didn't plan to give up her daughter. She found an angle. The family investigator was a working mother, someone juggling career and children, pulled in two directions every single day. Victoria spoke not as a lawyer, but as a mother who had made the wrong choices and was trying to find her way back. No mother would choose work over her children, she said. But sometimes, in trying to build something for them, you lose sight of them. I see that now. The investigator's posture shifted. Daniel's earlier advantages quietly evaporated. The day after the investigation, Mia found Lily alone in the rain outside her school. Every other child had been picked up. Both parents had sent texts saying they loved her. Neither had come. That night, Mia suggested to Victoria, "Set up a room for Lily at your place," like Daniel did. Victoria dismissed it as superficial. Mia pushed back. "It's not about the room. It's about showing Lily that you made space for her in your life." Victoria heard her. Meanwhile, Daniel had made his own move. He had rented a new apartment and told Lily she'd be living there with him after the court ruling. He showed her the room, cheerfully decorated. Lily smiled. Then he brought up custody, and she went quiet and walked away. He didn't notice. He was already texting Sarah, asking her to accompany him to an appointment. Sarah, unknown to Daniel, had already been to the new apartment. She had left a sonogram, her own ultrasound, visible on a shelf, placed deliberately where Lily would find it. Lily found it that evening. When the family investigator returned to interview Lily privately, Lily was different, lighter, happy. She had been staying with Victoria. When she came out of the room smiling, Victoria exhaled for the first time in weeks. Then the investigator told Victoria 2 things she didn't know. First, Lily had discovered Daniel's affair before Victoria did. One night at home, thinking Lily was asleep, Daniel and Sarah had been quietly intimate. They even double-checked that Lily was sleeping. She wasn't. She had been pretending. Second, Lily already knew Sarah was pregnant. Sarah had made sure of it. Victoria went completely still. Then she found Sarah. The confrontation was physical, visceral. Victoria, who had spent her entire career composed and precise, grabbed Sarah and shook. Sarah fought back, protecting her stomach, desperate. She broke free and ran. Victoria crouched alone on the pavement outside, unable to stand. It was Mia's mother, who happened to live on the same floor, who found her. She took her inside, slowly, through conversation and tea, and the quiet company of a woman who had been through her own version of this betrayal. Victoria began to breathe again. In the weeks that followed, a strange peace began to settle. Victoria started picking Lily up from school herself, something she'd never done. She made breakfast. She learned Lily's preferences. She asked questions and listened to the answers. Lily, cautiously, began to lean toward her mother. Daniel, confused by the shift, grew desperate. He asked Lily if she wanted his egg rolls, her lifelong favorite. She said her mother's cooking was better now. He apologized, he said. His love for her was unchanged. Lily wasn't interested in apologies for being loved. She wanted answers for the lies. She told him, "I gave you a chance to explain, Sarah. You lied. I gave you another chance. When I found the sonogram, you said it was a misdiagnosis. You lied again." She was done. Daniel, gutted, relinquished his custody rights at the final mediation. He agreed to receive only 1/3 of the marital assets. As he signed the divorce papers, he sat in silence, thinking about the morning he married Victoria, the way they had struggled together, the small apartment, Lily's first laugh. He felt deep, genuine remorse. For the first time, he apologized without conditions. Victoria heard it and felt something release in her chest, not love, not regret, but relief. She walked out of the courtroom and stood in the morning air, freer than she had felt in years. That evening, back home, Victoria and Lily quietly began packing away everything that belonged to Daniel. Clothes, photos, small objects accumulated over 13 years. Not with anger, with purpose. A new chapter. The day should have been the ending. It wasn't. Victoria arrived at the law firm the next morning to find a termination notice waiting. The firm's chairman had decided to let her go. The media coverage around her divorce had, in his estimation, made her a liability. 15 years. Every major case the firm had won, every record broken, every client saved, and she was handed a letter. Victoria didn't fall apart. She took leave, packed a bag, and took Lily on a trip. The camping trip was, by professional divorce attorney standards, a disaster. Victoria didn't know Lily got indigestion. She packed no medicine. She couldn't set up a tent without reading the manual 3 times. She made instant noodles and didn't know Lily disliked onions. A fan approached them at the campsite and loudly announced to anyone within earshot that Victoria's husband had cheated on her with his secretary. Lily looked at her mother. Victoria looked at the sky. They kept going. The next day, they went biking. They crashed from speeding. At the hospital, Lily instinctively asked to call her father. Victoria felt the sting, said nothing. That night, sitting on a bench outside the hospital while Lily slept, Victoria called Mia. "I need after-cell service," she said, trying to joke, "because right now, at work and at home, I feel like no one needs me." Back at the firm, Mia was overwhelmed. The case load Victoria had managed alone was now crushing her. A high-profile client, an ultra-wealthy husband whose wife kept filing and withdrawing divorce petitions, had been assigned to Mia specifically because the firm wanted someone more pliable. Victoria, as the chairman put it, was too stubborn and too famous. Mia was a safer bet. Mia knew she needed Victoria. She negotiated. Let Victoria back in, even temporarily, or they'd lose the case. The chairman agreed conditionally. The plaintiff in this case was a woman who claimed her husband had tortured her with water to the point of developing aquaphobia. He had also dragged her by the hair. But she had no evidence. Without proof, the case was headed for dismissal. Mia turned on the faucet in the courthouse bathroom and watched the plaintiff's face go white. She saw the thin, bald patches on the woman's scalp. She believed her completely. When she confronted the husband directly about domestic violence, he exploded. He filed to have Mia removed from the case. Mia had just cost the firm its wealthiest client. Victoria was furious. She didn't yell. She just turned cold, which was worse. She told Mia she was withdrawing the after-sales service. Then she walked away. Mia stood there, alone, starting to understand the cost of principle. As the firm's new head, Marcus Jung was appointed and came up with an unexpected solution. Instead of fighting against Mia, added Victoria as co-counsel on the case. 2 against 1. Victoria swallowed her pride and went to find Mia. She apologized. Mia had been trying to save her position, and Victoria had thrown it back at her. They returned to the case together. At mediation, the plaintiff produced a recording her husband ordering her into the hotel pool to overcome her fear. The defendant smirked and fired back that the pool records would prove he registered for a wellness membership to treat her phobia. He was overconfident. He'd removed all evidence from their home. He thought he was untouchable. The mediators separated the couple. As they were leaving, the husband turned to the plaintiff in the hallway. Victoria stepped in immediately, inserting herself between them. She told the husband they needed to speak. Mia guided the plaintiff out before the husband could say another word. Something felt wrong. Victoria asked the firm's chairman to introduce her to the defendant and his son formally, and that's when she discovered the truth. Marcus Jung was the chairman's nephew, the true heir of the Jung law firm. A secret he had kept from Victoria for over a decade of working side by side. She returned to the office to find the defendant waiting. He had dropped all pretense. He told her bluntly, the plaintiff was dead. He had killed her, and Victoria was going to help him get a lighter sentence, or else. He knew Victoria valued her daughter above everything. He made clear that Lily was not out of reach. He grabbed Victoria's phone when she tried to call for help. Threw it across the room. Victoria stood absolutely still. Outside, Mia had been waiting for too long. She called the police. Inside, Victoria found her opening. She slammed the man to the ground with her phone, fled the apartment, and pressed herself into a corner in the hallway, hidden as the man searched for her. She didn't breathe until the police lights swept across the building. As he was led away, the defendant turned and threatened Mia directly. At the police station, Mia lied. She told investigators she had come to the scene alone after receiving a call from the defendant. She protected Victoria, kept her name out of the investigation, kept the firm's exposure minimal. The media turned the story into a circus. Headlines linked the lawyers to the murder. Mia was called a possible accomplice. The firm hemorrhaged clients. Victoria couldn't understand why Mia was being named as the witness instead of her. She'd been the one inside. Mia stayed home while the firm managed the fallout. Her colleagues begged her to lie low. She was too exposed. But at the first public hearing, watching the defendant sit unmoved while the victim's mother broke down on the stand, sobbing that she had turned her own daughter away at the door on the day she came begging for help, Mia couldn't stay quiet. She organized a demonstration outside the courthouse. Her colleagues followed. Then Alex Chun joined. Then strangers, they called for legal reform for a system that didn't demand evidence before recognizing abuse, that didn't force victims to prove their suffering with photographs in hospital records before granting them the right to leave. Victoria testified at the second trial. The charges had been upgraded to premeditated murder. The defendant maintained that Victoria had arrived after the victim was already dead. Victoria corrected the record. The victim was still alive when she arrived. The defendant had thrown her phone away to prevent her from calling an ambulance, to make him go to jail. Victoria lied that she had watched the woman die. She is the direct witness. Then she played a recording. During a previous case meeting, the defendant had threatened Victoria in her own office. The recording captured everything, including his voice saying, "I hit you so hard and you're still not dead." He had believed the victim was unconscious. He hadn't known she could still hear him. The courtroom went silent. The defendant was sentenced to 15 years. Mia stood on the courthouse steps and addressed the cameras directly, calling Victoria Chae the bravest person she had ever known. Victoria, watching from inside, pretended to be annoyed. She wasn't. It was over. The murder case was closed. The divorce was finalized. The public had moved on. And then Victoria Chae, top divorce attorney, gave her notice and walked out of Daejeong law firm for the last time. Her colleagues lined the hallway. 15 years of cases, of victories, of impossible clients, of late nights, and she walked through all of it in a single straight line, not looking back. She rented a villa, something small with character. She cleaned it herself, bought furniture, set up her own nameplate on the door. For the next 2 weeks, no clients came. Then a letter arrived from the local detention center. A con man named James Park had heard of her. He asked for a consultation, and when she arrived, tried to trick her into paying a retainer fee before signing any contract. Victoria took her pen back, warned him never to write to her again, and left. She sat in her empty office and worried about the rent. That evening, Mia showed up at her door with flowers. Over dinner, Mia told her about Marcus asking if she wanted to transfer departments. After everything, was the divorce department still where she wanted to be? Victoria's answer was honest. Only you can know that. Then she changed the subject. The next morning, Victoria's firm got its first real client, Elena Park, back again, this time truly ready to divorce her husband. Victoria knew Mia was the right attorney for the case. She sent Elena to her. The same day, a woman arrived at Daejeong law firm claiming her husband had thrown her out after 26 years of an unregistered marriage. She had no certificate, no legal protection, and her husband had been gambling away her earnings for years, trying to sell off a piece of land left by her own mother. She had hidden his seal. He beat her for it. Mia saw the woman on television and sent her directly to Victoria. Victoria listened to every word, then reassured her. 26 years of evidence was more than enough for the court to treat this as a legal marriage. She filed a precautionary lien on the land, then offered mediation. In the room with the husband, Victoria played his own psychology against him. She hinted casually that land values were rising. His wife could demand more in the future if they went to court. Eager to avoid paying extra, he agreed to the $300 million settlement immediately. His wife walked out of that room with security for the first time in decades. Not long after, Alex Chun left Daejeong law firm and joined Victoria's firm. Marcus had suggested him himself. With Alex's social instincts and Victoria's legal mind, the small villa quickly became something real. Daejeong law firm hired a new junior attorney, and Mia found herself in Victoria's old chair, the one she had once resented, looking at a young lawyer who reminded her painfully of herself. The same stubbornness, the same urgency to be right, the same inability to separate feeling from profession. She thought about what to say first. Then she told the new recruit to buy a car and a watch. Sarah Choi, after losing her pregnancy and Daniel's affection in the same night, left Korea. She had sacrificed everything for a man who, the moment he won, decided he never actually wanted her. Daniel, stripped of custody, his career, and the life he had dismantled, received a text from Lily months later. She was willing to see him one visit, no pressure. He stood at the door of a coffee shop for 5 minutes before going in. Marcus Young finally told his father, who ran the firm Marcus now controlled, that he intended to run it as he saw fit. His father's objections to Victoria had never been professional. They had been personal. Marcus was done allowing personal feelings to dictate professional decisions. In one of the last cases before it ends, Victoria and Mia found themselves on opposite sides of the courtroom again, a married couple so tangled in misunderstanding that it took two of the best divorce attorneys in Korea to translate what they actually meant to each other. The couple, in the end, decided to divorce anyway. Some misunderstandings, cleared, still leave too much damage behind. Victoria brought Lily to meet Daniel. They sat in a park, awkward at first. Then something eased. Lily had chosen her mother, but she hadn't deleted her father. She just needed time to understand who he was now. And two women are standing in a courtroom arguing on opposite sides. One for the husband, one for the wife. Both of them fierce. Both of them certain. Both of them doing the only thing they know how to do. Fight for their clients in their own way. Like, share, and subscribe for more content.